Thank you for joining us. My name's Liz Everett with TRG, and I am Director of Payments. I've got two folks joining me today to talk about hospitality, restaurant, and QSR. I'll let them introduce a bit about themselves.
Hi, my name's Amy Gaines. I work at Scansource. Been there for about 8 years now.
Hi, my name is Paul Bojanek, and I'm with Zebra Technologies. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and some very interesting topics we have to talk about in times that we're in today.
Absolutely. So that said, what are the top issues that you're seeing QSRs or folks in the hospitality space facing these days, especially with the recent COVID pandemic?
I'm finding that they're challenged a lot with labor and how do they accomplish more with just labor shortages, as well as also inventory and trying to understand what they have where, and how can they get the product to their customers as quickly as possible, whether it be in a restaurant or even in a retail store or in other environments.
So that said, you mentioned the labor shortage. What have you seen companies like that do in terms of getting creative around maybe labor shortages or lack of staffing in those particular areas?
So technology is really kind of, some of the advanced technologies really helped pick up some of that gap, and allowing you to do more with converged devices, or like a Zebra is a mobile device company, and we can put more support with applications, phone, scanning, push to talk. All those type of interfaces can now be on one type of converged device, look up inventory, and then also with customers, interface with the customers and show not only what they're looking to order, but other alternatives. So it really gives them quite a bit of flexibility in addressing and doing more with less.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of companies are finding ways to become more efficient, better at what they do with less people, and working with what they have on hand. You see a lot of these companies are now partnering with like delivery companies such as DoorDash, Grubhub, which came from the pandemic, but now that people are using it, they enjoy it. Yeah, you'll pay for convenience.
Yeah. That said, are there any new, I guess, trends within the technology space? You mentioned a few of them, but anything else that you're seeing in terms of either new products that are being embraced more aggressively now because of that, or just brand new product lines in general?
I think a lot of people are asking their customers to do more with their personal devices. And so a lot of it is software enablement. And the challenge there too is to tie in your customer device with the application, with the back ends of how you interface and support them. For example, with the Grubhub and these type of stores, some of the retailers are giving their customers, if they don't have a device or they don't want to use their own device, their own personal device to do things. Or you'll see that at a restaurant. Now it's online, either online order as you pick up, go to the store to pick up the food, or you're now interfacing with a display to put in your order, and which is really nice because you also have an idea of how quickly your order is going to be ready for you.
Yeah, and that goes back to with the labor shortage. A lot of these people are interfacing with these kiosks, self-checkouts, and I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then also technologies can track the items that people have, and so that helps the asset protection folks and loss prevention folks to make sure that what the customer is actually for selecting is actually accurately being paid for. So you're seeing that as well. And
sure. Yeah. So all that said, then, if you were in the position of a CIO for any one of these organizations, what do you think your challenges would be, and how do you think you would attempt to attack those?
I think supply chain constraints, or everyone's feeling that right now. Definitely for technology in our industry, but across all industries. It's the the world we live in right now. I think planning as much as possible, trying to find ways to be as efficient as possible within the companies, and then also, the partnerships. They're making new partnerships with these delivery companies, and it's just it's a different customer experience now. And I think it's important to really embrace that, because I don't think it's going back to how it was before.
Right, right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then as you have a younger labor force, right, these younger folks have more experience with devices. So I think it's a little easier giving a younger labor force newer devices and their adaptability and learning how to use them. With some of the older folks, it's might be a little bit more challenging if you're not so used to using electronic technologies. And that's one of the things that we can also support is we can do training on devices, and you can do a lot of learning on devices, and that helps make that shift to new technology a little bit more easier as well.
Sure.
So getting the technology in your hands, that's especially now with supply chain constraints and safety, COVID, manufacturing protocols. It's a new world we're living in.
Yeah. Are there ways in which you think the organizations are doing things creatively to get around the supply chain challenges? I know we've seen a little bit of maybe some refurbishment devices kind of coming back to life when you thought that they were, no longer going to be a thing. What are you observing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues for a lot of our manufacturers are components. And so, it's this one tiny piece that's holding up the entire device. Our manufacturers are starting to look at how do we reconfigure these devices or strip them down or, just adjust them to where we can build products with the components we actually have and can get our hands on. I think we may see more of that. And then also, or close alternatives. If you need a MC9300, but we don't have this exact SKU, maybe we get one with more memory because it's available. So they definitely are getting creative and, just trying to do what we got to do.
Right.
In addition to looking for, extending the life of the product you have until the refresh is available. That's another option, is working with the account team to maybe see if you can extend a service contract just as a stopgap, and planning efficiencies around, maybe doing advanced training so that as soon as a product is there, you're good to go. Or even getting, instead of waiting for all of the equipment to be delivered at the same time, maybe accepting parcel shipments and deliveries and getting those ready so that when the rest of the equipment comes, you're ready to go, rather than receive equipment and then have maybe a month of staging and then maybe another little bit training period. You get all that done proactively, so when the last parts come in, you're ready to go. So it's not only is it a new world, but you do have to be creative and to be successful, and we're here to help through that.
Sure. So we talked a little bit about the DoorDash, Grubhub sort of introduction into the marketplace. How are you seeing companies like that in terms of either curbside delivery or pickup affect restaurants, and how have you seen them handle that?
I think they've kept them afloat, honestly. Especially during the lockdowns when only the delivery companies could walk into the restaurants, and I definitely think that kept them afloat, and it will continue to. And I think they'll start adjusting their companies to partner better with those companies. A lot of you didn't see fast food restaurants offering delivery,
Right.
But now you can get Chick-fil-A delivered anytime you want.
Right.
And I think COVID did force us to, in a way, use those and learn to use them, and now that we do, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah. And additionally, taking the technology that you have and the processes you have and make them more efficient. So for example, now you could have a restaurant app on your device, and that device, as long as you have your locationing turned on, they will know when you're in close proximity. And when you're in close proximity, their software can alert the food manufacturing, or the food, the folks that put the food together, to have food ready, warm and hot. So when you're there, it's ready on time, instead of the customer arriving and saying, well, why do I have to order it and then wait another half hour when I arrive. So using that type of technology and software solutions to tie in, locationing, the loyalty apps, as well as the folks that are actually putting everything together, just kind of makes it a lot more efficient and honestly a better customer service. I mean, who doesn't like arriving at a restaurant and saying the food coming out, and by the way, it's fresh and not, it's been under a light for a half hour. Right. Exactly. Right. So it's pretty cool stuff that technology can do.
Yeah, so speaking of that, in terms of technology, in your opinion, where do you foresee technology related to the hospitality space or the restaurant space in the next maybe 3 or 5 years?
I think it will be a lot of customer facing, like the kiosk and self-checkout. I mean, we've already seen that start to happen. I think it will continue to do that. And then also, everything's mobile. Mobile payments, the delivery, everything. And then also, like you said, the software. I think that's going to be a huge thing. Also, buying patterns, and the loyalty programs. I think we'll see increases in all of that too.
Yeah. So through that loyalty programs, you then now can have automatic learning as far as what you said, purchasing patterns, and then recommendations, or you can just make it easier and say, hey, speak into the voice and have it, speak into the app with your voice and just say, hey, order what I ordered last week. And it'll say, you mean this, that, and that? You're like, yep, that's it. So it makes it, I think, more efficient than it is today. But also, I think the customer feels like they're getting a personalized service as well with this, with AI, right?
Yeah, I think so. And, to that end, it's been interesting to watch, at least from my perspective. You would think the larger chains would be able to embrace the technology because in theory they have more capital to do so. But I've observed actually the exact opposite, where it's the smaller, maybe onesie, twosie, smaller chains or mom and pop stores that want to embrace that technology, and it's easier for them to pivot in that direction. So I think that's also interesting. It'll be fun to watch how that evolves, I think, over the next few years.
Absolutely, but there's also going to be those who still want to have that personal touch.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, right, our moms and dads, and even myself, you want someone to be able to kind of be unhappy about it if something doesn't turn right? Last thing you want to do is share your frustrations to an automated email or a robo, like, are you a robocall? But at the same time, the technology allows you to take and have all that information on hand. So if someone is unhappy, or you want to help someone with a satisfaction issue, you can easily pull up their order. You can easily look into where the delays were and provide those answers that in the past they didn't have. So it really helps also with the personal touch.
That said, is there any advice or maybe some tricks of the trade that you would share with maybe a small business owner in this space to help them kind of navigate what you think is going to unfold over the next 18 months?
Embrace the change.
Yes. Yeah, the unknown is challenging. Yeah. And feel free to start small. Yeah. You don't have to go full blown, and that's the nice part about the technology is that it all kind of ties in together. You can start small, start with smaller efficiencies, and build on that.
All right, well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Amy and Paul, for joining us. It was great chatting with you, and really look forward to seeing what's happening in this industry over the next few years.
It was our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
have
you.
a great day, Al.